At the beginning of the war, many people were eager about the prospect of fighting and defending their countries from foreign aggression. Surprisingly, almost everyone was in support of the war, as nationalism had taken hold of the hearts of many peoples. As the actuality of war became apparent, countries began to realize that spirit wasn't enough to win, and that they had an immense need for weapons and soldiers. National leaders instituted new regulations and organizations that increased their control over the everyday life of the citizens to help fund and support the war. They created whole new ministries that were solely devoted to improvement and growth of the military, and they began to exercise increasing control over production rates, wages, and prices, conforming the market to the needs of the war. This created a very effective and destructive war machine. Germany was an excellent example of how this idea of total war affected the economy and therefore the people. Walter Rathenau's War Raw Materials Board collected, rationed, and distributed every useful material produced within the country. Although this led to new technological advancements, it created new and worse problems with the economy and reignited conflicts between social classes. Germany's total war plan also directly influenced its people via things like the Auxiliary Service Law, which required all males from ages 17 to 60 to work jobs that were considered critical to the war efforts. Women's role in the workforce also changed during this time, as they were expected to contribute more directly to the cause of the war. This rise in labor expectations for all citizens was met with a proportionate increase in food rationing, which led to the increasing normalization of starvation as a cause of death. Germany's new leaders also instituted a new form of military dictatorship, calling for the complete entrenchment of Germany into a state of total war. This meant that the entirety of everything regarding their economy, industry, military, and government was geared towards winning the war. It was through this that Germany had manifested itself into the first truly totalitarian society. In many other countries, government leaders practiced the same kind of oppression, just not quite to the same extent that Germany did. This marked a significant period of growth for bureaucracy and privatized industry. Not only did the war effort have a significant impact on the economy, it also had quite an impact on the people directly, and in large part for the better. For the first time in a long time, unemployment rates were dropping because of new jobs created by the war. Because of this, labor unions grew stronger and gained more political significance, which increased the representation of those in lower classes. Also during this time, women became increasingly seen in places outside the household. For the first time, they began working in offices, transportation, and even some skilled industries, where they became extremely valuable in the menial production of important war stuffs. Although these initial successes were huge advancements for women, long-term results varied from country to country. At the end of the war, some countries granted women the right to vote, while others forced them out of the workplace and back into more domestic, household jobs. Despite these and other setbacks, however, great advances were made in regard to social equality, as the line between socio-economic classes and the distinction between gender roles gradually dissipated. Almost everywhere, the quality of life for poor people was increasing. The most devastating force by far at this time, and one that largely disregarded traditional social distinction, was the toll that death took on the people who were called to fight. If there is one thing that grew wildly during this time, it was the nationalistic spirit of citizens of countries at war. The government's savage use of propaganda initially earned many citizens unconditional support for the war. However, by 1916, this support was beginning to waver as the initial adrenaline rush was wearing off and people were beginning to feel the strain of total war. Many became wholeheartedly disapproving of the war, some even violently so. Many of Europe's left began uprising and protesting against the cost of war and inadequate food supply. This domestic unrest was mirrored by the sharp decline of morale among soldiers on every front, some of which began to resist command. Even soldiers of Germany, the most efficient war state of its time, were getting fed up with the hardships that accompanied total war. The initial sense of unity and empowerment that came with the beginning of the war was beginning to wash off, and old internal national conflicts were beginning to resurface, weakening all war states from within. By 1917, even Germany was beginning to crack.